Exposing the Amalekite Spirit, Part 2.
Now, regarding the Amalekite spirit, God had strategically allowed them certain leverage for a specific reason. Simply put, one could assume they are operating on divine authority, on divine assignment. Let's just say whatever is not God sent can and will be God used, as in the case with Job of old. Let me qualify and quantify what I'm saying. Judges 3:1-2 says, "Now these are the nations which the Lord left, that he might test Israel by them. That is all who had not known any of the wars in Canaan. This was only so that the generations of the children of Israel might be thought to know war, at least those who had not formerly known it." In verses 12-17, the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord strengthened Eglon, king of Moab, against Israel, because they had done evil in the sight of the Lord. Then Eglon gathered to himself the people of Ammon and Amalek, and went and defeated Israel, and took possession of the city of palms. So the children of Israel served Eglon of Moab 18 years. Now, who are the Moabites and Ammonites? They were the not too distant relatives of Israel. They in fact were the descendants or the children of Lot. For this very reason, God implicitly told the Israelites to avoid conflict with them at all costs as they marched on their way to the promised land. In Deuteronomy 2, God personally instructed Moses in verse 19, "And when you come near the people of Ammon, do not harass them or meddle with them, for I will not give you any of the land of the people of Ammon as a possession, because I have given it to the descendants of Lot as a possession." And this, of course, would include the Moabites. Now, throughout scripture, they had this mutual rivalry, even though they were family. But things got really messy. Things got really ugly and out of control when the Ammonites and the Moabites gang up with another not too distant relative, the descendants of Esau, namely the Amalekites. Up until this time, they would at least tolerate each other. Now they seem to want to terminate each other. This is typically what the Amalekite spirit does. It turns family against family, friends against friends, and even churches against churches. And to think that they were all related by blood ties. So the fight usually stays in the camp, in the household of faith. This spirit has an uncanny ability, more than any other spirit, to deliberately and decisively divide the church like no other. The enemy's strategy or line of attack is very simple and straightforward. Divide them from within. Now, for 18 long years, this trio oppressed Israel, 3 against 1. Talk about odds against him. But after they had their fun, God raised up a man named Ehud, meaning united and strong, simply put, strength in unity. Eglon, who was very fat, is a perfect picture of a man that is self-indulgent. He was fat, lazy, slow, always sleepy, loves conformable and comfortable conveniences or conditions. An accurate picture or depiction to some extent of the present day condition of the church, which is fat as in PHAT and not fat as in faithful, available, and teachable. The church, by and large, is undeniably unhealthy and unbalanced, but please don't take my word for it. Judges chapter 3 verse 15-30 says, "But when the children of Israel cried out to the Lord raised up a deliverer for them, Ehud, the son of Gera, the Benjamite, a left-handed man. By him the children of Israel sent tribute to Eglon, king of Moab. Now Ehud made himself a dagger. It was double-edged and a cubit in length, and fastened it under his clothes on his right thigh. So he brought the tribute to Eglon, king of Moab. Now Eglon was very fat, Eglon was a very fat man, and when he had finished presenting the tribute, he sent away the people who carried the tribute, but Ehud himself turned back from the stone images that were at Gilgal and said to the king, 'King, I have a secret message for you.' The king replied, 'Keep silent.' And all who attended him went out from him, and Ehud came to him. Now he was sitting upstairs in his cool private chamber. Then Ehud said, 'I have a message from God for you.' So he arose from his seat, Then Ehud reached with his left hand, took the dagger from his right thigh, and thrust it into Eglon's belly. Even the hilt went in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade, for he did not draw the dagger out of the belly, and Eglon's entrails came out. Then Ehud went out through the porch and shut the doors of the upper room behind him and locked them. When he had gone out, Eglon's servants came to look, and to their surprise, the doors of the upper chamber or upper room were locked. So they said, he is probably attending to his needs in the cool chamber. So they waited till they were embarrassed, and still he had not opened the doors of the upper room. Therefore, they took the key and opened them, and there was their master fallen dead on the floor. But Ehud had escaped while they delayed. So Moab was subdued that day under the hand of Israel, and the land had rest for 80 years. 80 for 18, not a bad deal. This man is like Jason Statham in the movie Mechanic, who thoroughly thought through everything, right down to the minutest detail, even carefully planning, executing, and impeccably timing his escape route. See, this is precisely how you've got to deal with an Amalekite spirit. Watch what Ehud did. Watch what a brilliant, pragmatic tactician he was, and we can learn so much from him. Here are 10 vital things to consider. I'm just going to briefly outline it for you. 1. Be observant. Carefully study your enemy. 2. Use your disadvantage to your advantage. He was a left-handed, but he was in his right mind. 3. Don't fight fire with fire. You'll get exposed. Don't expose your intention. Strategize. Don't fraternize. 4. Do it yourself. Leave nothing to chance. Too many cooks, as they say, will spoil the broth. 5. Be precise. Don't rely on what used to work. Make a new dagger. 6. Be specific. It had one purpose and one goal. So when finished, leave it behind, much like Samson did with the jawbone of the ass when he killed 1,000 Philistines. 7. Be private for your ears only. Don't go public with what is private. 8. Do the unexpected, the unpredictable, the unprecedented. They never saw it coming, from the left to the right to the center. 9. Make a tiny incision. Inflict maximum damage with the least amount of mess. And 10. Strike while the rod is still hot. Cut off the serpent's head. Ehud made a pea-sized wound with a meticulously crafted stiletto blade, intending to make a small, unnoticeable, unannounced incision. The victim will feel a little prick, no doubt, without even knowing they were systematically and strategically stabbed, as the skin surreptitiously closes, and instead of bleeding out, you bleed in. You die not so much of the stab wound itself, but more because of internal bleeding and subsequent blood clotting. You know, they say life is in the blood, but too much life left unchanneled leads to a slow but certain death. The church, which was supposed to be a place of life, has become a place of strife because of the Amalekite spirit. Truth be told, you have a greater chance of survival with an open wound. At least you know there is a problem, and at least you know where the problem is. The Amalekite spirit is aimed at short-circuiting someone else's destiny or stealing someone else's harvest. It unashamedly hitches a ride on someone else's hard work, diligence, and sacrifice. Remember, Amalek was the grandson of Esau, the same Esau who sold his birthright for a lousy bowl of soup. King Saul carried the Amalekite spirit until he took his own life, cutting short his own destiny, so much so that he and his son Jonathan died on the very same day. The Amalekite spirit usually and eventually and rightfully gets exactly what it deserves, but only after causing so much of damage and hurt and confusion. Bear in mind, until his self-inflicted death right to the very end, Saul tried to assassinate David. He was David's sworn and persistent enemy. When Saul died, however, an Amalekite came to David, the bearer of good news, or so he thought, telling David that he had killed Saul, priding himself in the very fact, which was a blatant lie. We know. You see, Saul fell on his own sword, and not realizing for all intents and purposes that David genuinely loved and revered Saul regardless, and that right to the very end. Naturally, David wasn't relieved. He was heartsore. So he killed the Amalekite, saying, "You weren't afraid to speak against the anointed of God." In 2 Samuel 1, 13 to 16, David said to the young man who told him, where are you from? And he answered, I am the son of an alien, an Amalekite. Then David said to him, how is it you were not afraid to strike your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed? And David called one of the young men, and David said to him, go and cut him down. So he struck him, and he died. And David said to him, your blood is on your own head, for your mouth has testified against you, saying, I have killed the Lord's anointed. The Amalekite probably thought he'd benefit from bringing the king's possessions to David, but his plan backfired. Isn't this all too common among believers? The Amalekite spirit always trying to impress or influence the pastor, saying, I killed that guy, I gave him a piece of my mind when he bad-mouthed you. But these are the very same ones who turn and run, the ones you least expect. Judges 6, 3 to 4 says, whenever the Israelites planted their crops, the Midianites, Amalekites, and other eastern people invaded the country. They camped on the land and ruined the crops all the way to Gaza and did not spare a living thing for Israel, neither sheep, nor cattle, nor donkeys. They came up with their livestock and their tents like swarms of locusts. It was impossible to count them or their camels. They invaded the land to ravage it. Midian so impoverished the Israelites that they cried to the Lord for help. In Joshua chapter 6, they possessed the land. Now in Judges chapter 6, they are dispossessed in their land. The Amalekite spirit is so subtle, so sublime, it will team up and gang up with other spirits just to destroy God's people and his church. The age-old and honored philosophy is, my enemy's enemy is my friend. So they remain lurking in the background, behind the scenes. In closing, part 3 will tie all the loose ends and will bring it all together. You really don't want to miss this one.